This is Steve Shadrach with Campus Ministry Today. We want to welcome you to the first of 5 summer sessions that we've created for you. And this particular one that we're really excited about is actually a live webinar that we did several years ago. Tim Castile with crew and I hosted this one, and it was for campus workers from all over the country. 1,000 different workers registered, and it was really meeting a real personal and felt need for them. The title is 10 Steps to Finally Get Fully Funded This Summer. And so listen and apply, and I think you'll really be glad you did. There's some great Q&A at the end of this session. Maybe as a follow-up to this particular summer session, you might get a copy of the book, The God Ask. Read it and apply it in your personal support raising. Enjoy.
Well, joining me today from Fayetteville, Arkansas is Steve Shadrach, Executive Director of Campus Ministry Today. Great to have you with us, Steve. What's it like in beautiful Fayetteville right now?
Well, Tim, it is most of the students are gone, and so we're kind of having a little break right now. In fact, I'm sitting in my hammock right now, sipping on a mint julep. It's really a great time of the year for us here in Fayetteville.
That's great. That's great. Somehow I don't believe that, but well, we've got some great stuff lined up for you guys today. We are talking with Steve about support raising for the campus minister. Steve has been involved in campus ministry for the past 35 years or so. And he has given support raising training around the country for 30 odd years as well. Guys, he literally wrote the book on support raising. That book, The God Ask, has helped hundreds of people get fully funded. I actually read it last month and I loved it. Seriously, Steve did not pay me to say that, though he probably should. But it's phenomenal. It's a perfect mix of biblical vision and it's really practical. I mean, it's just how to do everything down the line and how to raise support. Seriously, it's pure gold. So Steve has some great thoughts to share with us, and then you guys are going to have a chance to ask questions in the second half of the show. So as you're listening, type in your questions down there in the chat window and down there on the bottom left, and we'll collect them and we will pitch them to Steve towards the end. So Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Tim, I grew up in Dallas, led to Christ through Campus Crusade, through Cru, and got to be discipled in college through the Navigators. Been married 33 years to my wife, Carol, 5 kids, 3 grandkids. Got to be a college pastor of a big church here in Fayetteville years ago, and then was involved in helping start student mobilization, the traveling team, and now working with Center for Mission Mobilization. We've got a couple of ministries that we're trying to develop. One of them, Support Raising Solutions. Another one, Campus Ministry Today, which is sponsoring this particular webinar. But we still live next to the campus, Tim, still meeting with students. Had an early morning meeting this morning with a fraternity guy who just came to Christ and trying to help him get established in his faith. So I guess I can't get the whole campus ministry bug out of my system. It's kind of what I live for.
That's incredible. That's really great. Well, thanks, Steve. Well, if you're ready, go ahead and dive in. Let's have it.
Well, gang, we're thrilled to have you. We had, I think, getting close to 1,000 folks registered for this, so we're excited about our first webinar, and I'm really motivated because one of my great passions is how do we help campus workers get fully funded? I know if you're listening to this, watching this today, you may or may not be on support, you may or may not be fully funded, but my prayer for you is that between now, okay, May 18th, and whatever day those freshmen roll in on your campus, that you'd be fully funded, that once and for all, no more excuses, that this summer, this is D-Day, these next 60 days, I know we all have our challenges, we all have our supposedly reasons why we're not fully funded, but what if you were to look in the mirror, what if you were to go to the Lord, what if you were to go to your coworkers there and say, this summer, once and for all, I'm going to get to full support. And so I think support raising, Tim, it's not really about technique as much or how many contacts I have or all the different things that we think are the keys. To me, it's mainly about character. How deeply am I committed to the Lord? How deeply am I committed to reaching students? How deeply am I committed to get fully funded so I can get to those students? And so what I've done is I put together a 10-step plan. My coworker John Patton and I have been working on this and how to help you get fully funded this summer. And so if you're taking notes, please do, but we do have a download that you'll be able to download, and basically these 10 steps will be included in that free download. Along with that free copy ebook copy of the God Ask. So here we go. We're going to get started on these. And the first one is to get back to the Word. Back to the Word. This is the foundation of everything. If you don't have a scriptural foundation for what you're doing and why you're doing it, you're not going to be in the saddle very long. So this summer, before you get started, maybe even the next week, why don't you go to the God Ask, go to the back of the book. There's some Bible studies there. Just take 5, 10, 15 hours, something like that, to do good, thorough, inductive Bible study to say, what do I believe? And try to answer these 3 questions. Is it biblically okay to live on support? Is it okay biblically to minister on support? And thirdly, is it okay to ask others for support? Okay? You might even memorize the concept of the God Ask and the verses associated with it. And that's in the God Ask as well. So just, and in your appointments, you'll have that confidence, that biblical confidence that I know the Word, I know this is biblical, as I'm asking people to invest, what they're doing and partnering with me is of the Lord. And then I think I'd go to my prayer closet, Tim. I think I would, after I've studied the Scriptures, I'd go before the Lord and say, Lord, be honest with me here, Lord. Do I really, truly have a positive, healthy, clear, biblical perspective of you, of your calling on my life, the specific ministry that you've called me to? And also, do I have the right perspective on this awesome privilege of inviting others to partner with me? Do I view it as a necessary evil, or do I really view it as an incredible opportunity and privilege to invite people to participate and partner with me? If I don't have that attitude, I need to repent. I need to repent and let God do some deep surgery in my heart. And so I come out of that prayer closet after the Word, after prayer, and I've got my countdown clock. And I know that, and my countdown clock is this, friends. Everyone that's listening to me right now, every campus worker, I want you to find out the exact day and time that those freshmen roll onto your campus. I want you to find out that it's going to be August 15th at 10 a.m. on my campus. 2,345 freshmen are rolling in on my campus. I want you to get the date, the time, the number, and I want you to memorize those things and keep those in your mind and heart. And every single support appointment, you're going to be laying that out in front of people this summer. You're going to be saying, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Jones, whoever it is you're talking to, I've got 43 days and 8 hours and 30 minutes left until 2,345 freshmen roll into my campus. I want to be there to greet them. I want to be there to meet them, to share Christ with them, and start getting into small groups. I can't even report to my assignment until I'm at 100% support, and I can't even get in my car and travel to that location until I'm at 100%. I've got 43 days left. I've got $1,650 of support left. And so that sense of passion and urgency needs to be there, okay? How badly do you want to reach those students for Christ? That's what those people will pick up on. Number 2 of these 10 steps to get fully funded this summer is to revisit the basics, okay? Go back to these basics, like your materials. Update your materials. Make them sure they're simple and practical and excellent. Find out what the organization is creating for the new staff. Is there any new stuff you need to be using? Be humble and ask if there's other campus workers in your organization that are at full support. Ask them, how did they do it? What advice would they give you? Would they be willing to role play with you? Maybe go on an appointment with you, okay? Just be teachable towards those who have been successful. Start working on your appointment. Don't be sloppy. Don't be lazy here. There are 7 components. The God Ask unpacks this significantly, but there they are in that handout that you'll be downloading to build rapport and share the need and share the solution, share your ministry role. Tell the story of a changed life. Make sure you tell the story of a changed life every single appointment, okay? And then also asking for a monthly commitment within a defined range, and then what are the next steps? And then the ask, please do this casually, do this relationally, but make the ask where it's not awkward, it's not abrupt, but you're asking them for a specific amount, a range, but then you have enough courage, you lend them enough dignity to zip the lip and let them answer, okay? Let them know exactly what your goal and timeline is between now and when those freshmen roll in. And then follow up. Make sure that it's super specific. We had a person last night that approached us for support and asked us to increase, but they did not give me any kind of timeline about when they're calling back or And they didn't give specifics. And so I'll have a talk with him about make sure there's a specific time when you call back, when you're going to find out what that commitment is if they need more time. Now, number three of these 10 steps. I'm moving fast, I know, Tim, but I know you're going to take a break after number 5 here. But the third step is to get organized, okay? Get some software, something like MPDX or TNT or Karani, okay? Make sure all of your contacts, you have their info and their cell numbers, and you're contacting them the way they prefer to be contacted, either by phone or text or Facebook message, etc. So get all your stuff organized, all your contacts. I like to assign each person a geographical location, Tim. And so most of the people listening today, I have to believe that there's 2 or 3 or 4 cities that they're kind of congregated in, your supporters or potential supporters. And so I like to kind of tag them by priority. And this summer, as you're scheduling out your trips, what city do I go to first? What about second? How about third? And I'm prioritizing cities and people. And so I know God is sovereign. He's in charge of all this, and he provides the results. But there are some trends here, friends, and after training 10,000 or more workers, a lot of them campus workers over the years, we realized some trends. I even got this confirmed this week with another particular ministry. All of you are going to average about 50 monthly donors, okay? And about half the people you meet with are going to come on to your team. So you're going to have to meet with 100 people face-to-face in order to get those 50 monthly donors. Well, in order to get those 100 face-to-face appointments, you're going to have to ask 200 people. 200 people you're going to have conversations with in order to get those 100 face-to-face appointments in order to end up with those 50 monthly donors, okay? Now, in order to have those conversations, you'll probably make 600 phone calls, okay? 600 phone calls in order to have those 200 conversations, to get those 100 appointments, to end up with those 50 monthly committed donors. And so that's kind of what you're up against. And so if you're raising $1,000 of new additional support this summer, you can kind of just run those numbers out there, okay? And find out what it is you're up against in terms of the number of appointments, number of calls. Gang, it is a lot of hard work. That's why I'm saying character. How committed are you? How devoted? How much will you persevere? Will you work through the obstacles, the ups and downs, the yeses and nos? Will you stay on track to say, I will not report to my campus until I am at 100%? And I'm looking supporters in the eyeball and letting them know just how serious I am this summer, once and for all, to get fully funded, maybe for the rest of my life. Wouldn't that be an awesome goal? Well, number 4 is to open your eyes. Open your eyes to your current team. Gang, don't look past your current team before you for new support, before you've maximized the ones that God has already given you, okay? That additional $1,000 a month may already exist within your team. Now you've got a little credibility, a little experience, and if you haven't asked them for 18 to 36 months, it's time. That's what I encourage you to do. Every 18 to 36 months, be asking people to consider increasing. We tell you how to do that in the God Ask, okay? But you want to make sure you appreciate them. You want to make sure you thank them for what they've done. But now you're launching into your new ministry. This August is a perfect time. You're launching a whole new school year. You're asking God to do great things on your campus. And so it's just a perfect time, a perfect way to say, we are raising this amount of support. We're asking God to do great things. Would you consider increasing, okay? And that additional support may very well be right there within your team, okay? Number 5 is to secure the appointment, okay? Okay, Satan's going to be whispering in our minds, our ears, all kinds of little lies, ridiculous lies, okay? Whether it's evangelism or support raising, and setting that appointment up is the hardest part, okay? And so work on that if you would. Work on how to do that. I know this generation does it different ways than my generation. It may be phone calls, it may be text messaging, it may be Facebooking, etc. But here's even a text. Why don't you try this? Just experiment. See what you think with a few people. Send them a sample text, one of these people you want to approach, before you then follow up with a phone call that day or the next day. Hey, Ben, it's Steve Shadrach. I want to see if we could meet up this week to talk about our ministry at the university. We're raising additional support, and I'd love to reconnect. I'll give you a call tonight or tomorrow. Thanks. Well, that may diffuse a little bit of your nervousness and kind of break the ice. A text message to precede the phone call of actually setting up the appointment. But work on how many appointments can I secure on a weekly, even daily basis. That's going to be a huge part of your success this summer.
Especially, I really like just breaking it down. It seems overwhelming to look at, having a summer to raise, $1,000 in monthly support or whatever we're all looking at to raise this summer. But just to break it down, to how many people does that mean I have to get on my team? If they come on for 100 a month, that means I need 10 people, and I got to get 20 appointments. That means I need to make, that just helps the math side of it. Breaking down logically, I think gets rid of some of that fear. I think we should do this like every day, have a webinar like this. It's like a big block party with college ministry people just hanging out in the chat room, and this is fun, Steve. Well, if there's anyone out there that's just now joining us, or if you joined us a little bit late, we are Campus Ministry Today. Be sure to check us out online at campusministry.org. And remember to download your free copy of his ebook, The God Ask, which we have emailed to you just now. It should be showing up in your inboxes as we speak, along with 10 steps to fully fund your ministry this summer from Campus Ministry Today. And again, we are talking with Steve Shadrach, founder of Support Raising Solutions and author of The God Ask, a fresh biblical approach to personal support raising. Now, Steve, one of the big hiccups we have at just college ministers is just being disciplined with our time, especially in the summers when things get just a little bit less structured. How can we deal with support raising and plan out our schedules well?
Well, thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me today. And that segues really right into number 6 on this 10-step plan that I'm trying to present to all the campus workers. I think we may have gotten close to 1,000, over 1,000 that registered for this. So we have some great response for this first webinar that we're doing on a monthly basis. But number 6 is not a strength of mine, Tim, but it's something that I kind of have to overmanage myself. And it's just to become a master scheduler. Okay, to go ahead and think through what cities this summer I want to go to map out those trips in advance. Okay, it's better to visit a city twice and to spend 3 or 4 days there and pack out my schedule than it is to go camp out for 2 weeks. I promise you'll see more results, and people will sense that you are a man or a woman on a mission if you're just there for 2, 3, 4 days packing out your schedule than just going for 2 weeks and trying to have an appointment each day. Okay, so do all this before you leave town. I've made big mistakes on this, thinking I could show up in a city and somehow it's just going to all fall together. Yes, don't get sloppy or lazy or presume upon God. This takes an amazing, incredible amount of prayer and planning as you schedule out. Okay, and so and here may be a little bit of a standard to try to meet. What if this summer, when you're raising support, especially if you're doing it full time, what if you were going to average, your goal is at least 15 to 20 appointments per week, 15 to 20. Does that sound unreasonable to you? What if it was at least 10? You'll need to remember, if you're going to have 15 appointments per week, you're going to have 30 conversations. You're going to have to, 30 conversations, and that means you're going to have, 90 calls, something like that, in order to have those 30 conversations to get those 15 appointments. It's a ton of work, and it takes a lot of scheduling. What I like to do is what I call in number 7. John Patton kind of is the model for me on this, is to go on support raising binges. I know you all are working with college students, and they go on these drinking binges, the binge drinking. Well, what if we went on support raising binges this summer? They will sense as you go to this city and you are packing your schedule out. I mean, you've got an early morning breakfast, you've got a mid-morning coffee, you've got a lunch, you've got an afternoon, maybe a dinner, you've got an evening Starbucks. Let's see how many of these strategic appointments you get in the zone, you stay in the zone, and let's see how many appointments per day. There's something incredibly intoxicating about maxing out your day with 4, 5, 6 appointments. At the end of that day, Tim, you are kicking back and you're going, praise God. And when people meet with you and they realize this is your 3rd or 4th appointment for that day, they go, my word, this person is working hard. And so that really shows your vision, your passion, your urgency. It conveys to the people you're meeting with. So please, this summer, as you're raising support, don't after you've had one appointment that day, pat yourself on the back as if you've really worked hard today and retire to the pool and sip mint juleps like I'm doing today. Don't do that, okay? Pack out every single day. Number 8, the 8th step of these 10 steps to get you fully funded this summer is kind of, how do you view yourself? View yourself as a storyteller. View yourself as a mobilizer, okay? Not just a campus worker, because people give to people justified by a cause. And so people, yes, they're really more committed to you than they are your cause. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be educating them and motivating them about your organization, but they connect with stories. Pick out a changed life, a story, every single appointment. Find one student that you or someone in your ministry led to Christ and discipled, and they've had a transformed life. Maybe even record a little 60-second testimony on your phone, on your smartphone. And there in the appointment, you could just say, Mr. Smith, would you mind if I just clicked this button and showed you a 60-second testimony of a student whose life had been changed by Jesus Christ? And so, please, all the statistics and all the great purpose statements and all the cool logos and PowerPoints, don't overdose on that, because make it simple, practical, excellent, but major on vision and life change, and have at least one life change story, okay? And keep investing in your supporters. Keep kind of challenging them to be involved in evangelism and discipleship and missions. I just had lunch with a supporter just a couple of hours ago, and I was just pouring out different things that he could get involved with so he could have a personal ministry as well along with me. Well, number 9 of this 10-step process I'm talking about of getting fully funded this summer is this concept of niche asks. Make these special asks. I think this can really create some excitement among people. Now, I want you to major on monthly asks. Please put a priority. If you could get to full 100% support on monthly gifts, you would have an unbelievably strong team. Monthly commitments is what you're asking for everywhere you go. But that doesn't mean that the people you meet with would not be very interested in knowing, are there different parts of your budget, your personal or ministry budget, that they could maybe match up with, that they would have an interest in or identify with in some way. And so I really write all my supporters' names down. I look over them, I pray over them, and I say, what aspect of my budget would this person be interested in? And so my dentist took care of all my dental needs as a way of investing in our ministry. One donor I could tell would be interested in purchasing me a car, and he did. Another one took care of all the graduate degree expenses I had. Another one has all the ministry travel expenses to ministry events, ministry meals, maybe all the conference scholarships, or the list goes on and on, okay? Get creative. These niche asks can be very creative ways that you can excite people and make them feel like they have more ownership. Just saying, sir, you're going to now be donor 38265. Well, that doesn't excite them too much. But if they know that every time you have a group of students over this school year and feed 50 people, every other week, a big cookout, and they're paying for all the food that's related to your ministry meals this next school year, wow, they can get excited about that. The 10th and final step, Tim, before we get into some of these questions that I think I see people just showering you with, is to keep investing in students, friends. Take the long look here, okay? I know you're in the midst of raising your support this summer. It can be intense. It can be stressful. You're kind of looking at every single person as a potential donor, potential appointment. But let me tell you this. If you will keep investing in students' lives day in, day out, week in, week out, year after year, I'm hoping you don't do this as kind of view this whole campus ministry as I'm kind of a one and done person. No, I was with some folks last night that just spent 12 years in campus ministry, and they're signing up for another 6. They're committing at 6 at a time. Okay, and so I'm just saying, stay in the saddle. Keep investing in students. Consider being on support for a lifetime. You never know which of those students, once they graduate, will really continue to walk with Christ, or continue, or end up having great businesses and make a lot of money, a lot of resources. Some people say, well, Shadrach, you just have a lot of wealthy friends. No. I've just tried to love and serve and pour into all kinds of people over the years. Some of them have become successful, and of course, they want to now reinvest back into the very people that invested in them, and some of them are able to do that very, very significantly. So I'm the executive director of a ministry, so that means there may be some executive directors or team leaders listening to us today. It may mean that you're raising your own support, like I am, just like you. But also, I'm raising hundreds of thousands of dollars each year of organizational support and also ministry projects. Well, can you guess who our most faithful and larger donors are to our organizational giving and to our project giving? Yes, it's the men and individuals that I helped spiritually when they were in college. They did not forget. They will never forget. And when I go and ask them for significant gifts, boy, they're more than happy to do that, okay? So once they're graduated, once they get a job, you'd be doing them huge favors to go to them and ask them to start investing back and kind of pay it forward in a sense to allow you to invest in students the same way you invested in them. And most of them have no giving plan. You'd be doing them a huge favor by asking them for support because you'd be helping them start a giving plan. And parents of these students you've been pouring into, if you've met them or you know them or know of them, this summer would be a great time to list who are all the parents that I have met or I know of or I've had any contact with. Friends, they make great, great support appointments, and they are more than willing, most of them, to meet with you if you've touched their child in some way. Well, those are the 10 steps, Tim. I know we're going to get to some questions. Let me give this bonus, a little bonus to everybody before we get to the questions, okay? And so back to my original question, gang, that are listening in on this today. Exactly. I want to know exactly how many days and hours until those new freshmen arrive on your campus. Make a note. You're going to find that out, okay? And then, how much do you need to raise to the dollar? How much to the dollar do you have left to raise in monthly support to get you to the full budget and to those freshmen, okay? So, when and how many freshmen are going to be arriving on what day and what time? How much support do I still need to raise to get to full budget? I'd keep those two numbers in your heart and lips every single day this summer, every single appointment, and do not let anything stop you. What I'm praying for, Tim, is that God might use us to help 1,000 campus workers across the U.S. and beyond once and for all get fully funded this summer. Are you motivated? Have you spent the time preparing? Have you spent time in the Word? Have you read the God Ask? Have you teamed up with others to help be successful? Those kinds of things, the 10 steps that I mentioned today, I think they can really make you or break you. So those are my 10 steps, Tim, and I know we've got lots of questions, so I'll zip the lip at that point. Thank you, brother.
Well, thanks, Steve. That's great stuff. Yeah, we have a lot of great questions. Some of y'all mentioned you haven't gotten the links yet to the books, and you will. I just checked my inbox, and I have them. If you don't get them, well, we have a money-back guarantee, so you can email Steve, and he will refund all your money that you've put into this webinar. So let's get to these questions, and keep them coming. Like, as you guys hear Steve talking about answering some of these questions, keep the questions coming in the chatting. The first question is from Ryan Taylor, and they ask, how do you handle the tension between laboring on the campus for your students with connecting with your supporters? Is there a ratio of your time that you like to think about giving to one versus the other? How do you balance doing college ministry versus raising support?
Well, I'm kind of a one thing at a time, laser focused kind of a guy. Maybe that's a male thing. I don't know, but I would, if I were you, if there's a way you could carve out time this summer to do nothing but personal support raising. What is it? 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? What is it? So that when you do hit that campus, boy, you can give full focus, your mind, will, and emotions and heart and soul to reaching those students, and you don't need to be crippled and limping along, being at partial support. So let's say you're at full support by the time August 15, those freshmen roll in. What I like to encourage people is to tithe their time, okay? What if you're to take 10% on a monthly basis? And those hours would be preparing your newsletter and putting together your social media posts to your supporters. It's praying for your supporters. It's maybe going and visiting a meal here, a meal there. just continue to maintain and cultivate and inform them using all kinds of different ways, social media, snail mail, phone calls, text, you name it, to keep them informed and involved. So if you just did 10%, well, I think you would be able to maintain and grow the quantity and quality of your support team over the long haul. You'd have a great team if you would commit to that on a monthly basis.
That's great. I'm the same way. I have to focus on one thing at a time. So it really does help to carve out a couple weeks or months, even during the summer, to just focus on support raising. Okay, Sarah has this question, and a lot of people are echoing this on the chat. What's the best way to get referrals? What do you recommend, Steve?
Well, I think I have to believe everyone on this webinar has people who care about you, love you, respect you. And so I would think through the people that are already on my team. Who are the ones that are already committed to me? And I'd go to them and I'd say, who are the 2 or 3 people or 4 people that would meet with me simply because you asked them to? In the Godask, we call this the triangle of trust. And so think through the people that would set up appointments for you simply because you asked them to. Another thing I like to do is think through all the people that I know in the different cities, and are they involved in their local church? Which people do I know have some sort of heavy involvement in their local church? Maybe they're a staff person, maybe they're an elder or a deacon or a Sunday school teacher or something. In other words, they have relationships, they have credibility there. What if they were to be your advocate? What if you could identify 5 or 10 people who you would go to this summer and say, I would love to approach you and your church to consider investing in me and investing in this ministry. I don't know the process. Would you be my advocate? And so now they're setting up and telling you and informing you what is the path, to apply for this particular church for support. And so I think that the advocacy concept with local churches can be a great way to engender some potential new supporters, especially local churches. The triangle of trust with asking people. I try not to mix up asking for referrals and asking for monthly support in the same appointment, Tim. I don't want them to have to choose, gosh, should I come on Steve's monthly team or should I give him some names? No, I want the decisions to be totally separate. And so once people have come on your team and it's a done deal at $100 a month and they've started and all the dust is cleared, then you can come back to those people and say, there's one more way that you could help me. And so now they're giving you the names and contact information of the people that might be open to meeting with them. There's a whole section in the Godask about how to ask for referrals. So it's right there.
Steve, I agree. I think the Godask has some really, really practical stuff. Like, how do you even segue into asking for referrals? I would literally open that book and just read it as I'm talking to people on the phone. Or it's very practical. Okay, Taylor asked this: how do you expand into more well-established contacts? 90% of my contacts are current college students and recent graduates, since I am a recent graduate myself. And I just don't know many people who actually have a consistent income, which is pretty important. So what do you think about that, Steve?
You know what? I think I would like to sit down and explore with this particular campus worker and really see, have they really gone back through their entire life and done a timeline of their entire life. Facebook kind of forced us into that a few years ago, where they made everybody kind of fit all their stuff into this timeline year by year. I would go back to this person and I'd say, okay, have you really done the hard work of thinking through every year, every class, every team, every club, every church, every relationship that I've ever had? I'd also think through all the family relationships, all of my parents' friends, and all the different churches that I've been involved with, and the adults and the leaders. And so if someone has a small number of contacts, I'm not saying that they haven't done all their work. I just would like to explore to say, have you really, truly done the thorough, deep work it requires to dig deep and come up with hundreds of names of people Don't make any when you're name storming. Don't make any decisions as to whether they will or won't give. Name storming means there are no bad names. And yes, some people are blessed with more contacts with others, but go to the chapter in the God Ask that talks about name storming and see if you have really kind of paid the price to go back and really dig deep for at least 200 to 300 different names. And then it gives some other ideas on how to generate more names if you feel like your contact list is small.
Great. Okay, so what about asking for increases? Both Carly and Jess both asked a similar question. What is the best process for asking current ministry partners for increasing their monthly support? Is it an email then phone call, or a hard copy letter then a phone call? Kind of a tangent off of that. So when you're asking for an increase, what is the best practice for helping partners feel thanked and appreciated while also asking them to invest more in your ministry?
I think this is something that we kind of have paranoia in our minds. I've had it in mind where if I go to this person and ask for an increase, they're somehow going to feel like I haven't appreciated what they have been giving, in the years prior to that. I spent years without asking for increases, and finally, I had a supporter kind of rebuke me for that. They rebuked me for not going back and asking people to increase. And so he made me say, over the next 6 months, I want you to report back to me how many people, you've asked for increases. So I kind of begrudgingly and fearfully started going back to people and asking, for the first time, many of them for an increase. And as I said, I kind of said I would affirm them, Tim, every single time, and I would say, Mr. Smith, you have been giving to us, investing in us for 12 years now at $75 a month. It's been like clockwork. You've just been so faithful, and so yes, I affirmed them tremendously. But I said our ministry has grown, our budget has grown. The needs that we have for to develop this ministry have expanded significantly over the last 12 years. And I've just realized, as faithful as you've been all these years, I've never once asked you to increase. And I'm just here, I'm saying, would you consider giving me a raise? And every one of them started laughing. They all started laughing each time I would say that. And they'd say, of course we'll give you a raise. The reason we never increased was, you can guess what they're going to say, Steve, it's because you never asked. And so I want to hit myself in the head sometimes. James 4:2, we have not because we ask not. So yes, whether you're doing it in email initially or phone call or letter to set up that appointment or set up that ask, you want to appreciate them. You want to remember how many years they've been given, how faithful they've been giving, the amount they've been giving. But you then want to transition to say, we would be honored. We would be honored if you would consider increasing your support. And I would give a range. And the God Ask, it gives some percentages. If someone is giving $50, what you should ask them to increase to. If someone is giving $100 a month, what you should ask them. If $200 a month, what you should ask them. So go to that section of the God Ask and see what that chart is. But always in person is always going to be the most effective ask, for whether it's an initial ask or whether it's an increase. But I think every 18 to 36 months is not too soon. Not sooner than 18 months after they come on your team. But if you've waited 36 months, you probably missed an opportunity or something. So every single year, I look through my entire list, Tim, of all the supporters, and I ask two questions. I say, who could increase, and how much do I think they could potentially increase? And then I start to pray and think through my strategy at that point.
That's great. I need to do that myself. Okay, a lot of people are asking about group asks. So if you have a small group or a small church gathering and you have an opportunity to share about your ministry, what should you say? Though I think Jen York already did really well on this in the chat, but you can see if you can beat her answer. I know you're probably reading it.
There are no bad questions, only bad answers, and I've given lots of them over the years. But I would be careful. I think we get real excited when the church says, okay, we want you to talk to the whole church and make your pitch, or we'll come to our community group. I've got 10 couples here. And I think I think a group ask is never, ever going to be as effective as meeting individually with people. You can spend 20 hours planning a big bash, a big dessert bash for all these couples. I promise you, 20 one-hour appointments would yield immeasurably more support than making your pitch at some dessert bash with 20 couples. So I will do everything that I do in a group. I want to make sure it will help me get individual appointments. I don't want to do anything. Here's the principle. I don't want to do anything in a large or small group that would somehow inhibit me from getting individual appointments. And so if I was invited to a church gathering or to a community group or Sunday school class or something, I may or may not accept it. If I accepted it, I would not present in that group setting what I was going to present on an individual basis. Because then when I do call for appointments, they'll simply say, well, Steve, we don't need to meet. I heard your presentation there at the group setting. And so I like to somehow, some way, ask the pastor or the leader of that Sunday school or whatever, I'll come and talk to your group and share about my heart for the Lord and my heart for missions and give a biblical message or something. But my real goal is, how do I get individual appointments? And so ask them to help you maneuver that and navigate how to do that. And many times I've literally just passed out 3 by 5 cards and said, would you be willing to put your name and cell phone number on these cards? And I'm going to be in town for the next 1 week, and I will do my best to get back with as many of you as possible. And just see if I can squeeze into your schedule somehow, just for a cup of coffee, and to be able to share more about our ministry. And so individual appointments trump everything, Tim. Don't get all thrilled when you get asked to speak in front of groups. Group support raising is not the key to your success.
That's a good word. Yeah, I think we can tend to get into a home run mentality instead of just trying to get base hits and get people on base, because I think we want to win the lottery all at once. But yeah, it's definitely proven true for myself. Okay, so I think we have a lot of new staff who've just finished up their initial MPD. So Allison Reed asked this question. A lot of new staff who just finished up MPD, and they've been in full-time MPD, like raising support, since August. What encouragement do you have for them?
They say that again now, Tim.
We have a lot of people on the chat or on this webinar who are new staff who have just finished up their initial or are about to finish up their initial support raising, and they've been going at it since August. Like, what word of encouragement do you have for them, or what advice do you have for them?
Now, did these people get to full?
And MPD is just support raising, ministry partner development.
Yes. And did these people get to full support? Is that what you're saying, or are they still working on it?
Sure. Some of them probably have not.
Okay. Well, I think if you got to full support, praise the Lord. Take your spouse and your coworkers and your accountability partner and your supervisor out for a steak dinner. Okay. Don't let them order sirloin. Let them order filet mignon. And celebrate what God has done. But then, boy, there better be an awesome ongoing maintenance and cultivation plan in place, because I think many times we overpromise and underdeliver. There we are on that support appointment, and they come on your team for $100 a month or $200 a month, and boy, we look them in the eye and say, we're teammates, and I'm going to be sending you newsletters, and we're ministry partners, and boy, it's going to be exciting, and I'm going to be praying for you, and you're going to be praying for me, and they don't hear from you for 6 months. And I've been guilty of this. And so please don't overpromise and underdeliver. And so what is your maintenance and cultivation and appreciation information plan? And please, make it generational sensitive. Okay, if they're 40 and above, certainly 50 and above, they'd probably appreciate some sort of a hard copy newsletter occasionally. If they're in their 20s and 30s, they probably would appreciate something more digital or social media related. Okay, but consistency and excellence, and keep vision and change lives in front of them. So I would say, and there's a whole section in the God Ask about excellent maintenance and cultivation. Tim, if they're still in the middle, if they're still in the middle of their support raising, there is a hump. I was sharing with someone today, last summer, I was raising some major dollars for our organization. And do you know that I was struggling emotionally? I even got kind of depressed one day. I had paralysis of analysis. I kind of wasted a whole day one day when I was just kind of, looking up names and stuff. Just kind of, I was hiding out. I was probably experiencing all that particular, month and even that particular day that so many of our listeners may be experiencing the struggles, the challenges, the emotions, the feelings of discouragement or setback or even defeat at times. And I said, Lord, this is good for me to feel these emotions because so many of our young men and women and at all ages who are out there raising support, they're experiencing this every day. And so thank you, Lord, that I too have struggles and obstacles and emotional down days and discouragements and even depression at times. I just have to go back to the Lord, Tim. I just have to go back to the Lord and look deep into his eyes and say, Lord, have you called me to this or have you not called me to this? Am I called to reaching these students or am I not? And I have to get back up and filled with the Holy Spirit. I'm going to get back out there. And then sometimes just one conversation, one appointment, one yes, boom, I'm back in the saddle again.
Great. Well, that's oddly encouraging, Steve. Thanks for sharing that and just being vulnerable, because I do think it helps to realize that there's not superhuman support raisers out there. All of us struggle through it. And I think it's just good to know we're all in the same boat. All of us, on this chat, on this webinar, are all raising support. I had to raise recently, a couple of years ago, I had to raise $4,000 more in monthly support just to get back up head above water, and you're doing the same thing. So it's just great to know that we're not in this alone, and it's definitely, if the cause is worthy, the cost is irrelevant. So, okay, next question is from Logan. Ask, how would you handle support raising with non-believers?
I don't know I don't know which ones are the believers or which ones are the non-believers. God does. I probably know what Logan is asking. If someone is obviously a non-believer to him, he probably is. But you know what? Support raising is not about money. It's not about needs. It's not about your budget. I think it's about vision and relationships. And these supposed non-Christians that he's talking about, they desperately need the Lord. And couldn't God use Logan or other people on this webinar, your need to go out, the requirement for you to go out and raise your support, to plop you right in the middle of your network of relationships and use your need to raise support as an excuse, a reason to rub shoulders and meet with Christians and non-Christians. You may get to lead someone to Christ during a support appointment. Or once they're on your team, if you can just get them on your team, boom, now they're starting to receive your newsletters. Now they're starting to get prayer requests from you. Now they occasionally get a call or a visit from you. You might be the only light in their darkness. And so, if this person makes their money from selling drugs to, school children down on the corner, I'm not sure I would take that support. But I don't think that's probably the case. Most of our people on the webinar today, D.L. Moody, that great evangelist from the late 1800s, he was open to taking funds from non-believers, and this is what he said. He says, "I'll take their money." He said, "I'll wash it in the blood, okay, and then I'll spend it on the kingdom." And so, I think that that's probably my philosophy too, is that I will take their funds and use it for the kingdom and hope and pray for opportunities to share Christ with those individuals in the process. So maybe I'm a little more open-minded or open than some, but that's my philosophy.
That's great. Okay, so do you see any differences? I mean, you've coached and trained literally thousands and thousands of people on how to raise support, and you've tracked them and just to see whether they're successful or not. But are there circumstances that make it really difficult based on geography? Like, not just in the United States, like you've trained people all around the world. Is it a matter of like, man, it's just impossible for some people or some people in some countries to raise support, or or are there certain principles that hold true across the board? Does that make sense?
Yes. You know what? I think there are some principles. I wrote an article. If folks can go to supportraisengsolutions.org if they would like to at some point, and there are hundreds of articles there that myself and many other leaders from Navigators, from Campus Crusade, from North American Mission Board, from different groups have written there. But one of them, Tim, is 5 universal principles around the world of support raising. And if they go to the God Ask, there's a particular page in there. Let's see if I can figure out. It's 315, page 315. And what I did is I found ministry workers in 5 different continents around the world that they had been involved in raising support and training others to raise support. And I wanted to see how they went about raising their support and what were their obstacles and what were their issues. And I was going to write a full page in my book on how do you raise support in Latin America? How do you raise support in Africa? How do you raise support in Middle East? How do you raise support in India, China, etc.? Well, lo and behold, I got these 5 different articles back, and they all said the same thing. I couldn't write 5 different articles. They all said the same thing. So I just have links to their stories there on that one page. But the principles were the same, Tim. Here's what they did. They identified every single person that they knew. They went to them individually, personally. They shared their ministry vision with them and asked them to come on to their monthly support team for a particular amount or a range. And then they zipped the lip and let them answer. I said, gosh, that sounds familiar. And that's the exact philosophy we use here in America. Now, we are the most giving nation in the world. We understand, a lot of churches, a lot of people, a lot of believers understand about support raising. I'm not saying that in other countries that is culturally well known or even culturally accepted. But I think the method, the personal, face-to-face method, even in some cultures where they say it's shameful or dishonorable to approach someone face-to-face. I don't know. I've got lots of stories of people raising support if they will take the personal route instead of the impersonal route. So I think there are some universal principles, and I think the big one is are we willing to take the personal face-to-face route, and secondly, are we willing to ask? We have not because we ask not is what the scriptures teach. And whatever principles you find in the scriptures, I really think those are transcultural. God gave them to us, and they could be understood and applied in virtually any culture.
That's really helpful. This is a really important question from Brady. What is the background on the webinar actually supposed to be? That modern art that we have behind it? Can you see that, Steve?
I think that's
saying to you. Like, what's that? How's that speaking to you?
I think that's a brain scan of my brain, Tim, and it shows the total fog, that exists within my brain at all times. No, I tell you what that is. We have one of the most amazing creative design groups that's behind this campus ministry today. There's this team that's working, and it's Joe, and it's Ian, and it's Kyle, and it's Ellie, and it's Jennifer who's helping lead the way, and there's others even on this call, Taylor Tolson with Campus Outreach, and Paul Wister with Christian Challenge, and of course you, Tim, with Crew. There's really a whole group of people that are making this campus ministry today get it up and going and growing, and even this webinar is a team effort. So we hope that our listeners will tune in, a month from now when we go after topic number 2 and topic number 3. We're just going to see how many topics, how many campus workers we can serve and add value to your life, add value to your ministry as you try to reach students for Christ. And so that's what those colors, that's what it means, Tim.
Wow, that's more than what it said to me. That's impressive. You're more of an art critic than I am. That's great. Yeah, I'm definitely am passionate about sharing ideas among college ministries, across ministries, not having silos. So I love this. I love just the chatting that's going on, this webinar, and whatever we can do to help each other reach college students with the gospel more effectively. That's the heart behind this monthly webinar, and I'm super excited to see where it goes in the months to come.
Thanks for checking out the Campus Ministry Today's Summer Sessions. If you enjoyed this episode, check out Season 2 of the podcast, where Shad and Paul interviewed even more seasoned campus ministers from across the country on best practices on evangelism, disciple making, and mission mobilization. Also, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Be on the lookout for Season 3, dropping this fall.